Guys, I am excited. We are at end of year.
Yeah, we are.
I don't know about you guys. I know everybody starts checking out around this time. I get excited. Don't know why. Maybe it's the downtime. We don't get any. Just kidding. Welcome to GTM Unfiltered, hosted by GTM veterans Judd Borakove, Craig Rosenberg, and Matt Amundson. We make talking business fun and sometimes funny. That's because we're always unscripted, unfiltered, and unlike anything else out there. Get ready. But I love to get into some of the fun things that happen around this year. And for me, one of the big ones is there's a lot of festivities happening, a lot of fun stuff, parties, things like that. I'm kind of curious. I'm going to throw this one out, and I love leading with this kind of thing. So you guys, jump in as you want. I want to go holiday drink. Favorite holiday drink? Are you in? Are you out? Are you an eggnog person, hot toddy? Are you non-drinker? What do you do instead? What are you guys thinking? Like, Matt, I feel like you're like king of festivities. Don't ask me why. I just get that feeling. What's your you got a drink? Are you in? You out? Or what?
Yeah, so I mean, like, I'm not a big drinker, but my favorite cocktail is a Negroni, which, like, it's red. It feels festive for Christmas, so that works. I will say, at Census, we had our holiday party last week. We were at this awesome bar in the Marina, which I'm like in my 40s and live in the suburbs. Like, I don't spend time at awesome bars in the Marina, so like it made me feel young and cool. And they had this like big sort of group drink that was in a flamingo, and like a flamingo is like kind of our internal mascot for our employees. So it was awesome. Our CTO was sort of like, he was carrying it around. He was ladling out drinks from it. So like that was a ton of fun. I think it just kind of, these are like the fun times where you get to, unless you're one of the three of us, let our hair down and have fun with your fellow teammates. So, I love things like that where it feels like communal, maybe not super sanitary, but
what was the drink in the?
It was like, it was like this like punch, man. It was like almost like like. What's the drink that you have in college where it's
Jungle
like
Punch?
Yeah, it's like jungle juice or something like that. It was very sweet. I will say I only had about 4 ounces of it in a little cup, but it sure made me feel merry and bright.
I hope you were one of the first ladles, not one of the last.
I think I was, yeah, because like I saw him pull that thing off the bar, and I was like, "Oh my god, yes!" I did see it on the drink menu, and I was like, "I wonder if anybody's gonna order this." And Anton, you're the man. You did, and I think everybody had a fun time with that. So normally I would say Negroni, but if there's like a 32 or 44 ounce flamingo that's available to you with punch that's more syrup than alcohol, just do it.
Why does it have to? Does it have to be alcoholic?
No.
No. Come on, you can. Whatever.
Although with all the family around, I feel like a lot of people need something to take the edge off. Just saying, but not everybody.
For sure.
We used to have at Tippett, which was a company that was at, I'm trying to think when, 2005 maybe to 2011. We used to have a Nog-off, so everyone would have to make an eggnog. Yeah. And number one is the issue with the Nog-off is you can't actually drink that much eggnog. And not because you would be, hammered. It's the milk and the, it's so thick, so like you had to time yourself if you were going to do the contest. But I would enter like a Hawaiian or tropical nog every year. I'd come in like second, but I would never drink it. Because I can't, I don't like, I would sip the eggnog and I would do the contest very little pieces because I had to prove that mine was better than everyone's, but I wouldn't drink it. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be like, it's just such a novelty drink. It's not like it's not like right now, if I went to that bar in the Marina, they'd be like, ooh, you got to try our eggnog. It's like, so eggnog's a traditional one. And I definitely have taken part in making like special recipes in it. But like, that's actually my only sort of holiday comment on that. Like, cause if I'm going to drink, like on the alcohol side, I'm just going to drink what I want to drink. like, and typically like a specialty drink will be like highly sugary, you know. I mean, no, I know
Yeah.
alcohol sugar, but like, you know, it's hard. But I do take sips of my kids will do like at the coffee shop, like the gingerbread or the type of, you know, fun sort of mixed non-alcoholic drinks. And I do sip them, and I realize how awesome they are. But once again, this is like I'm just bringing it up as a topic for everyone else because, you know, for me, it's like those are sippables, not like, oh my god, I can't wait to go have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, eggnog is loved and hated in my house. My wife, we some people just seem to bring it to us, and I don't drink it. Period. I'm a bourbon drinker, but I don't drink eggnog. And whenever it comes to the house, every night my wife seems to have some, and she's like, "This is so good, please get rid of it." And I'm like, "Well, just pour it out." The next night, "This is so good, please get rid of it." And it just keeps going on because she can't stop herself. But it's like, to Craig's point, it's sippable. Like, even when I've had it, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to drink a lot of this. So for me, the go-to is any kind of bourbon always. But I will say around the holidays, hot toddies seem to find their way in.
That's a good one.
Right? Gets cold, sitting around fires, just kind of nice to have. But once again, to me, that's a sippable. Like I don't like, there's nothing I drink anymore where I'm like, oh, let's go, right? Like I'm old, whatever, obviously by the hair, whatever. But I just don't think there's anything better than that kind of warm feeling around the fire, just hanging out with everybody and getting to enjoy it. So, guys, if you got great recipes, send them to us. We want to try them.
But
I
actually,
might one on air.
There are holiday drinks, but you don't really look forward to drinking them.
That's true. Fun fact, I've never had eggnog before, ever.
Okay. And see, here's an example. I don't care. Like, I mean, if I cared, I would be like, no, you know, like that. I mean, if I cared, I'd be like, oh, dude, you know how people, I'll bring you some. I'm not going to. Because you're not missing.
Yeah.
Like, another example, I was thinking of, yeah, as you guys were talking, I'm like, you know, the Buena Vista in San Francisco is famous for the Irish coffee. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a tourist spot, and there's a reason for that, because you don't roll around going, oh my God, I can't wait to have an Irish coffee, right? Like, you go to the Buena Vista so you can have their famous Irish coffee. Then you have it. You might have to, whatever. But then you go to the Ghirardelli Chocolate Factory. You know what I mean? So it's like that was sort of this category of drinks, which are, you might make, you might advertise as part of something, but it's, you know, at the end of the day, I'm still going to, you know, drink, you know, what I want to drink, you know? So
beer. Beer. Right. Cool. Well, hey, good start here. I want to roll into something that I think is very appropriate for end of year. We've all been now a part of a, let's just call it wonderful 2023. All the ups, all the downs. You know, at the end of the year, I always love to do the, like, what surprised you? What was the thing about 2023 that we're going to remember most? And what are you watching for 2024? I hate predictions. We're not doing those, guys. We're doing, like, what are we watching? Because predictions don't work. Craig made me very aware. Don't worry. They never work. So, guys, what do you think? Like, what was 2023 takeaway? And what are you kind of like looking at for 2024?
By the way, on the predictions don't work thing, I need someone to do a research project to see how many people predicted that ChatGPT, OpenAI would change the world this year. The answer is like, what? None, including them. I'd have to go. You know, that's just like, because this was a monumental tech disruption year, right? I mean, and I know there's like, well, actually, there's nothing to say. I mean, like, literally, this is like a seminal moment on the tech side, you know, with AI, and particularly with, you know, the effects that it has on the go-to-market. There's just nothing, like, if we didn't say, I mean, it'd be very typical to say, but if we didn't say it, like,
we'd be kidding ourselves.
And we'd be like, that would be ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's changed the world, you know, it's, so, but I think the most important thing we look forward to next year is, there's got to be massive adjustments to pipeline generation. And I think we tested things and felt the pain this year. I don't believe that people have the answers for the same amount of pipeline that they used to generate.
Yeah.
That is like the issue, is that I think we'll come out from the bottom, right? And we'll do better. But like, this is like a part of the expectations level set, which is I'm not sure we can generate the amount of pipeline relative to the size of company that we were doing. Let's say when it was just, we sort of mentioned the free money era was ridiculous pipeline generation and close rate. But SaaS in general, there's been a long run of, we figured out digital marketing strategies where you could, take content and create leads. That is less effective now. Two is we used to fill pipeline gaps with outbound SDRs, and their productivity has fallen, and everyone blames work from home, and they're wrong. The changes in the buyer and their reaction to outbound SDRing. And then, so that just is a cause for disruption on the pipeline generation side, because we got to solve it. And just so everyone knows, the solution's not unicorn sales reps and getting sales reps to prospect more. Do they need to prospect? Yeah. I mean, that should be part of your life. Like, you should always want, but it won't solve the problem. So like an example I think of, by the way, on the marketing side, Matt, is you, right? Like Matt, who for years was great at content driven demand gen, is like 100% demo requests / like down the funnel for the effectuation of like all campaigns and anything they're doing. That's a big change, right? Because there's still people are coming to me, God, our conversion rates on content are really low. They're getting less downloads and they're not working at all. It's like, okay, well then it's time to change. So that's what I'm looking for, is we got to start to find new recipes that work.
Yeah, I agree. I think all those points are valid. And I think as a marketer, what that points me to is one, we have to reset our expectations on the amount of pipeline coverage we're able to create. If you look back historically over the course of the last 10 years, like pipeline has come from a myriad of sources, whether it was a demo request, whether it was a content download, whether it was like signing up for a meeting at an event, or even being incentivized by campaigns that are like, hey, we'll give you we want to get you back on your feet. Here's $100 gift card for a pair of Nikes to take a meeting with us. I think the reality is for most companies right now, if you're unable to, as a marketer, bring somebody to your salesperson who has an active project, understands what you do, has brand level awareness with your organization, the reps are going to struggle. It's going to eat up a bunch of time. It's going to require a heavier hand from like a solutions consultant or a sales architect, or however you sort of delineate those professionals within your business. And it's going to cause a lot of friction between, the sales and marketing function. And it's going to lead to things like really low win rates. I think your best bet is, instead of saying, hey, I want to create 5 or 6x pipeline, what you want to create is really high quality pipeline. And so narrowing the focus to, how do I build programs that actually drive people to request a demo and sort of identify active projects within their business that your solution's a good fit for, then I think you can get to a point where your win rates are going to go up. The reliance on like this massive amount of pipeline is going to come down, which is, like, for me, was one of the biggest surprises entering into a new business. Is like, I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to build all these different ways to put good prospects in front of the sales team. The reality is when we narrow the focus down to just those hand raisers, the sales team got more productive and they won more and they were happier and they were more confident. So I think, the days of like hey, here's all the different ways that we can get people into the funnel. Yeah, absolutely. Keep going with that. But in terms of when you drop that person into a sales cycle, you have to be very dispassionate about the way you think about your history or how marketing's been run over the course of the last decade. And you have to take a razor to some of that stuff and say, how do we put these people right in front of our salesperson when they're ready to buy, and not be like, oh, salespeople can't do evangelical selling anymore. Buyers don't want to be evangelically sold to anymore. They're just like, hey, I'm here for a solution. I've got very small amount of budget. It may have taken them forever just to get approval to start an evaluation cycle. And I think we have to be cognizant of that. That's not to say you shouldn't run big programs that bring a lot of people into the funnel. You still should. Demand creation is still really, really important. But the demand capture, you got to think about it through a much narrower lens.
I love everything you just said, and I'm going to build on that for a second. I feel like we always talk about best practices, and I feel like the last 2 to 3 years, 2023, I think being the worst, is the year of worst practices. We have literally, and I don't know if it's where people were brought in, if like early people in their careers kind of came in at 2020 and were indoctrinated into this, everybody buys because there's so much money. But it seems like the only thing anybody's doing right now is ads and SEO. And I'm sorry, we know that's not working. Everybody I've talked to is struggling dramatically. They can't fill the pipe. And to your point, Matt, what I really like is quality over quantity right now. Should we be bringing in a large amount of people at the top? For sure. Right.
Yeah.
And to your point, we're going to better understand where to bring them into a sales cycle. And I think that's the other thing too. I've seen too many companies who say they have a scoring model, and you get in and there's no real scoring model.
Yeah. Or at the very least, they should be completely redefining what their scoring model looks like now.
Yes, absolutely. It seems a lot of people still, or went to up to this point, tools. Now they're moving away from it because nobody has budget. And content, which was, I still think really good content converts. The problem is there's not really good content. Personas aren't being specifically defined. ICP work is not good. I'm going to just call it trash, at least what I've seen. I'm sure there's people doing it really well. Love to see your ICP, guys. But honestly, I think it's getting back to the basics. So for me, the year, what I'm watching is, are people going to kind of reestablish their basics? I always go to the sports the sports side of things. And I like to say all the greats had the basics in spades. I feel like that is something that people have really lost in the last bit of time. So I think we're going to see a shift. And then I think the motion, in my opinion, that I'm watching and the hottest on is obvious. I know everybody knows already before I say it, but it's partner. I believe there's a lot there that has not been explored or understood. I think that there's a lot of, at least from my experience currently, the companies that I'm seeing who have a partner program, they're not mature. And then they're trying to layer on these like Nearbound and things like this that are extensions of their partner program. Right. So 2024, to me, it's the year of partner. That's how I'm calling it. In my opinion, that's what I'm watching. Yeah. Not a prediction, guys, just watching. Yeah. And I think that there's going to be some monumental movement, some shifts in the way that CROs are looking at the world. Because to Craig, to your point too, and yours, Matt, it's not working, right? Yeah. The salespeople are not closing at the same rates. The activity isn't happening at the same rate. The SDR, ADR, BDRs are not able to get meetings the way they did. They're going to be looking. And I think that this is one of those things they can add to the repertoire to spin up as a true motion that is going to move the needle in 2024.
Okay, I just want to say one thing to all of us, which is it's easy for us to say quality, okay, but it's hard. How you get there is, that's the most important. It's that would be just like a podcast, be like, well, you got to get better quality, and it's what I think we should look for is, like Matt's talking about, there's this new demand creation funnel at the top using things like LinkedIn or whatever that might be, and looking for those. We got to get in the weeds a little bit to get to the point where you can even deliver quality. It's really important. And I think when we think about looking at next year, I think that's really important. I mean, I don't know that I have the solution for it either, at least. And so it sounds like Matt's onto something good. So we should probably dig in at some point on some of the tactical things you're doing, less so at the bottom, more so at the top.
It's all, it is more so at the top for sure. I think the thing is the funnel is just very narrow right now. And you have to be comfortable with that as a marketer, which is to say, a lot of the things that you would have pushed forward to the sales team because they sort of smell like a deal, they just don't anymore. So you have to be a little bit more ruthless about what you let through. And you have to, I think, if I could give marketers a good bit of advice, it's like you should feel comfortable missing your pipeline number if what you're delivering is a bookings number. Okay. Because I think it's going to take a long while for people to get comfortable with the fact that 6x, 5x pipeline is no longer really possible. But if you reorient your brain around, instead of having this massive amount of volume, I want to focus on things that are really good, and maybe I can help our sales team drive the win rate up, then there's going to be a pressure release on the amount of pipeline that needs to be created. And that is a very different way of thinking. And if you said, hey, if I could drive 2x pipeline, but it was super qualified and it looked like it might close, you would change your marketing mix. And I think people have to start changing their marketing mix to get in line with something closer to 2.5 to 3x of pipeline.
Yeah. I love everything you just said. I think that there was, like, if we can get a reshift, because I think one of the big challenges, though, with that whole statement is CROs have to get their head around it's not a volume game right now. Mm-hmm. And to make that shift is difficult. I'm not going to call this like, you just needed it. No, that is difficult. Like, hey, I've done this. I've built my career on this. And now you're telling me we need to make a big shift. That's going to be difficult for people to kind of swallow.
Yeah.
So I am curious how long this takes and how well CROs, CMOs actually unite to really solve the problem together. I'm hoping because of this problem, it creates that need for unity within the go-to-market function.
Yeah.
But we will.
I'll tell you one thing that's been helpful.
My prediction is that won't happen.
I don't good prediction. I'm gonna,
the way you said no, you said you hope.
I did say hope.
Yeah, and it's always been hope. It's so hard, man. So hard.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think the one thing that's helped me, and I've always looked at what happens to opportunities, like does an opportunity get created and does it go to closed won? I've spent a lot more time thinking about stage progression in the last 6 months than I think I have in the previous 6 years of my career, which is what are the programs that are going from, meeting to opportunity, but like opportunity to qualification to validation, and trying to get a sense of what are the programs that are actually driving people all the way through in sort of a healthy conversion across each one of the stages of selling, instead of just, hey, we created an opportunity and it got closed won 60 days later, 90 days later, 180 days later, whatever the length of your sales cycle is. I'm spending way more time looking at stage progression than I have in forever.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So guys, if you want to just go deep on any of these things in the future, and I'm talking to our audience here, let us know what you want to hear more about. We want to answer those questions. Send in questions, send in where you guys want us to dig deeper. We'd love to do it. We're going to transition here in a second. Craig's got an amazing interview coming up. I'm super stoked for it. And so we're going to do that. But please, guys, one, happy holidays. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a labor of love for us, and we're so happy that you guys are a part of it. And two, have a wonderful year. Let's all recharge and come back and kill it and make some of these things we're watching really happen. So from me, and I know you guys, we love you. Thank you guys as usual. And Craig, we're going to turn it over to you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
That's Magnard. Better everyone who's watching, yes, this is a Bruce Willis in the air conditioning duct scene in Die Hard in a painting. I'm not sure who did the painting, but I had to have it.
And Die Hard in celebration of the holiday season, because it is one of the top holiday movies. So there you go.
Actually, let's just start with that. So do you classify Die Hard as a Christmas movie or not?
I do. I'm sorry, I do.
That's okay. Actually, I've been trying to answer that for a long time, and I have gone back and forth, but now I'm telling everyone that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, so that this time of year, everyone should watch it at least once. And that's my new policy.
I'm watching it tonight, I think. No, I am. It's like literally, it's been on my list. I think I'm doing it tonight.
That's awesome. All right. So everyone, I'd like to make sure that I can properly introduce my guest today, because honestly, like I've been excited to talk to you. I haven't talked to you in a long time. And like the amount of energy and actually, here's what I'd describe: your knowledge delivered with your energy is like the perfect combination for any type of conversation, recorded or not, by the way. So everyone, like today's guest, years of experience in the executive suite, from president, CFO, COO. I knew her when she was leading the wildly successful run that Outreach had. So a lot of our listeners, of course, know the famed sales engagement application platform that Outreach was. And Anna was, the COO, CRO, face of the franchise, part of that amazing run there. And that's where I really got to know Anna. We probably had a million conversations, recorded and not recorded, over that time. And that's where I really got to know her and the intellectual energy she brings. I don't know. I'm going to find the high level headline on this.
Love that term, intellectual energy.
And now you're a board member, you're an operating partner at Madrona. So you're, sharing that incredible executive experience that you have with others. And we hope that you can do that today with your intellectual energy. But folks, today's guest is Anna Baird, and it's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Craig. I just had knee surgery, so we'll see how the energy goes. I'm like, if I wiggle in my seat, it's because my knee hurts. So hang tight.
Hey man, if I wiggle in the seat, it's very normal for me to wiggle in the seat. So I think we'll be in good shape. How was my intro?
It was awesome. Thank you. Yes, no, it was amazing. It was amazing, as always. I feel like I'm one of those weird people who've like been a CFO, a COO, a CRO. I was a partner at KPMG. I helped take Google public. It's been a wild career, honestly.
Yeah, but it is, and probably you're among the many ways that you move the needle on the revenue side during your time at Outreach. The CFO experience was huge, and probably huge right now, right? Because of, all the different things that are happening. But so what I'd like to do is just to kick us off is just to make sure that we can surprise the audience with an insight from you. I like to ask, like, what is it today that the market thinks that they're doing right, or they think is normal, that they're wrong about, and what should they be doing? That's how I like to lead, just to find that sort of insight that people aren't thinking about, and we can surprise them with. What would you say to that?
Well, we'll see how surprising this is. I think it's what's been fun for me being a board member now, and also working with a lot of C-suite executives because of my role at Madrona and other things that I'm doing, is I get to see a lot of different C-level executives, especially CEOs, and operate through these last 18 months or so of kind of some challenging times. And you'd think what I'm going to say shouldn't be surprising, but I'm just telling you, in fact, it is, because they're not doing it. And they're often doing the opposite of this, which is, when the market is hard, you need to have maniacal focus on the pain you solve for your customers. Because if you aren't solving a pain that they're willing to pay for, then you're not going to do well in this market, right? I mean, it's like, if you're a nice to have, you're going to have a problem. If you are truly solving a pain, but you're spending a bunch of time on, other product tangents and other things because you are hoping to figure out how to make, more money or whatever, you've got to sit back and take a look as, like, why do we exist as a company? Because there's only one reason you exist. You solve something for your customers, right? And whether that's a new fun thing that you can do, or it's a pain that helps them with efficiency or revenue, you've got to double down on that and say, are we just maniacal on how we're messaging that, on talking about the challenges we solve for our customers, and how we're investing in product to continue to do that? And what I have seen over the last 18 months is people get scared and change strategy every quarter, and not have the opposite of maniacal focus. And it's causing them a lot of challenges then in their own businesses, because they can't get the outcomes that they're honestly trying to change the strategy to get to an outcome, and it's having the opposite effect, right? So that's probably the big thing.
Yeah, no, that's actually, you're right. The way you said it, it shouldn't be surprising, but it is. But do you think that, I'm trying to because I've seen the strategy changes out of panic is like, yes, happening. But and is part of that though? So the maniacal focus that you talked about, you said that there's a pain in the market that we solve for, and we're going to quadruple, triple down our focus on. So is part, because there's the go-to-market strategy, or is that the same? Like, are they moving away from their core pain that they're solving, and they're sort of panicking in the go-to-market side, or is like the maniacal focus to me seems like it would, even if you did make alterations to your go-to-market, it would still be ultimately serving against that maniacal focus against the pain that you're solving for folks. So like, yeah, when you talk about maniacal focus, like give us the scope of that. Like where does that, what should that look like?
No, and I think it's a great question, and there's a lot of nuances that come into the play that we'll hit on some of that in a second as well, because I think there's okay, so what pain do you solve? Why does your company exist? And people forget that sometimes. They forget why you became a company in the first place, and then you start trying to create all these things that you think the market wants. And what happened, I think, in this last 18 months especially, is people had a lot of money going into this 18 months, especially in the startup world, right? And I say startup being a broad term from series, C plus, who are product market fit, had their stuff together, right? We're doing well, raised lots of money. And when you raise lots of money, I think you start experimenting, right? You're taking risks. Hey, I'm going to try this or I'm going to try that. And you also, honestly, get super confident in who you are and your understanding of what you think the market wants. Because you started investing in R&D and you started investing in go-to-market messaging and you started investing in some other things, and maybe you did an acquisition or you're trying some new product lines. And I think what happened is everybody started to do that, and then this market hit and they're like, okay, we're going to go double down on that. We're going to go double down on all these things we were trying. Instead of saying, hey, hold on. What in this, if I was going to do 3 things this year that made a difference for our customers to drive expansion and retention, and acquisition of new customers obviously would be helpful too, is what are those 3 things? And what happened is everybody was doing 7 other things that were, periphery, tangents, new ideas, other things, and they kept investing in those or trying even more of those things versus taking a step back and going, if I could only do 3 things that really impacted 80% of my customers, they would go, oh my gosh, yes, I'd expand. I'd give you money if you did that. Are we doing those things? Is that where we're using our money instead of burning it on a lot of other stuff? Which then causes more panic, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're burning more cash, you start panicking more, you start trying to do new things with less people, less money, and then we wonder why we're not successful, right? So I think that's what I was saying. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, total sense. I love the 3 things. So Robert Kaler, if you're listening to the show, the rule of 3 is in play with Anna here. I think that's also easy to remember. I actually, as you were talking, I got to tell you, I just had to run an errand, and there was a truck in the parking lot. I meant to take a picture of it. I wanted to because, most landscapers or, landscape maintenance folks or whatever will just say so-and-so landscape. And then if they have a web page or a card, they list off a million things, right? Because they don't want, they want his wife. This guy said, so-and-so landscaping, landscape management for property managers. I was like, dude,
nice.
That's so simple, but he has his ideal customer profile that he is serving. He states it. He exists for them. And I was like, gosh, what a very simple yet amazing thing. How it's just extremely targeted from, a type of truck we see every day, And so anyway, as you were talking, I'm like, oh my God, like serendipity in effect. Yeah.
I love that.
For sure. Actually, what's interesting that you said there was I'm just going to even pull it out of context, what the market wants or your market wants.
Well, and it may have changed, which is the other problem.
Yes.
Right. This is I said this all the time, as a go-to-market leader, you see it, but also as a product leader, you see it as CEOs, obviously. It's like you can have a strategy. And it's like, why is our strategy changing mid-year? Well, our strategy changes for multiple reasons. But it can be because, our product needed to change. There's something that it needed to evolve. Competition came into play, and so you needed to evolve. But the market also can change what it wants from you. And I saw this within 6 months, sometimes the market totally pivoting and saying, this is critical for us. It was something that wasn't even table stakes 6 months before. And when the market changes like it has in the last 18 months, that's absolutely true, right? I mean, it's like, are the customers having the same pain? Do they still want from you the same thing they wanted 6 months ago? Because you better go figure that out. And it's funny, I was talking to a company that had let go of their CRO, which is pretty common these days.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like, there's more CROs in the market than ever, right?
Gee, which one was that unique?
No,
yeah.
I was talking to somebody in their portfolio. It was like, oh, we have like half of our companies have a CRO opening. I was like, yeah, really, surprise, surprise. So, but I was talking to them and they were saying, oh, as one of their other leaders wanted to be a CRO. And I said, well, talk to me about how you're looking at this role. And they said, well, it's great. You just really focus on the management team and strategy and you don't meet with customers anymore. I was like, say what? It's like, you don't meet with customers anymore. I was like, yeah, our CRO, my last couple CROs didn't meet with customers anymore. They're running the business. I'm like, how can you run a business? I don't care what C-level title you have and not meet with customers. Because that is the only reason you exist. It's the only reason you have a job as an executive. And as a leader, period, for anybody in the company, the only reason they have a job is because we have customers that we're servicing. So not going out and doing a check in the marketplace on a regular basis. And whether you're head of product, you're the CEO, you are the CFO, you are the CRO, head of marketing, obviously, you're out there touching base with customers all the time. To make sure, are we on track? Is our strategy still aligned with what they need from us? Because there is nothing more important than that.
Yeah, what an easy, it's not easy because not everyone does it, but it's actually pretty simple. So like so we have to know what the market wants. To do that, everyone should be talking to customers. And do you bring everything because this, what's unique about you too is if you think about it, like the raised up through the revenue side CRO, they're kind of single-minded in running that team. Like the CFO's actually conspiring against. There's a lot. I don't want to be too, but there's the adversary. But you are actually you were essentially a executive level. You were an executive across the board. You knew the CFO's point of view, the COO's point of view, as you were leading revenue. And like the thing I'm sort of trying to gather here is like, so we understand the customer, but you also understand the constraints of the organization at being who you were in the constraints of the organization to deliver on that, the pain of product who is like, getting a million different signals from the sales team on things that they should build or not. What are your thoughts or best practices on managing the customer feedback and actually producing, whether it's from a product perspective, a marketing perspective, whatever those things are? Yeah. How do you know when to make your move? And there's enough votes to do that? You've heard it enough, or is how should we think about that as an organization?
We used to have a fun game we played between the engineering product team and me and my leadership, where it's like, I'm going to give you $10, and at the beginning of the year, you get to place your bets on where you want that $10 spent, right? And it's back to your, what is your one list, your top 10 list? What is the list that says, if I can do nothing else, these are the 5 things that move the needle this year, the 3 things or the whatever, and prioritized in order. If we have to drop one, we're going to drop the one at the bottom. And we would revisit this. So we do it when we're budgeting. So say it's, comes fall, August, September, people are doing their budgets for the next year and they're getting all their stuff ready, and engineering and product are going through their whole, hey, where are we going to invest and what are we building? And that's a team agreement, right? And it's based on all of us, product, go to market, everyone going into the marketplace, having talked to customers, coming back and saying, if we invest in one thing that moved the needle, what would it be, right? And obviously that top 5 list, really. And to say, and then when does it need to be delivered and how much revenue does it have to attribute for the year? You can't do a forecast unless you do that exercise, right? And then you have to revisit it every quarter, and sometimes more often, to say, are we still on track? Is that still the right play for us? Because some of these plays take a year to build, right? Or 9 months or 6 months or whatever, depending on where you are in the technology journey. And so it's, how are we making sure that if we have to cut as a team, we are saying these are the things that would go first, because I'm not going to give up this. And we got pretty maniacal about saying, this is my number one priority. If you do nothing else but this, and my whole team, and I said, you aren't going to hear anything different from the rest of the go-to-market team. We are all aligned. This is our list. You don't have to ask anybody. You don't have to check with anybody else. And you tell us if you disagree based on obviously the customer feedback you've gotten, and then we'll settle it out. And it really made everybody's job so much easier. And we just revisited it every quarter as a leadership team. Product and go-to-market would obviously get together, and marketing would be in that too. And then obviously we'd do it with a broader executive team as well. But it's going, here's where we're investing. Here's what we said we were going to focus on. Yes, we're still on track. Yes, we're still on track. Yes, that is still my number one.
There's a few founders that I'm working with who will love the three things. So the three, I'm going to keep focusing on the three. So from a go-to-market perspective too, would that be like your recommendation? Like, because that gets
100%.
We go all of okay. So
yeah, 100%. I mean, it's, again, one thing we used to do, and I honestly think it was probably one of the best things that we did. And this was an outreach. We started to put in, as you're growing, especially as you're growing as fast as we were, there's a lot happening in the organization, right? The market is changing. Your company is changing. You're trying to get so many things done. You're trying to build a foundation to scale, because that's what you have to be able to do to get to efficiency. Right. You have to build the foundations that scale. I used to have my go-to-market goals. One was based on growth levers and levers for scale and efficiency. We had those two categories, and that's how we did we called them OSMs, objectives, strategies, and measures. And so every year we'd set up our OSMs on those two categories, and each of my teams had objective strategies and measures that they were focusing on. And what we did, though, that I really think helped us up-level that, because you start getting, obviously, as you get into every team and they're focusing on the top three things, how do they align back to goals, et cetera. But for the board, I would put together each quarter, I say, here's the foundational programs that we've put together in our, pre and post sale organization, in our sales organization. Here's programs we put in place to do X. We hired this leader to build value engineering. We are putting in this program to increase win rate. We are putting in this program to increase our retention rates. And so we would show all the programs and people. That was pretty much those two categories. Sometimes there was tech, so it could be technology we invested in as well. But it was people and programs and technology. And I had one sheet for each team, and we did 6 quarters rolling. And we said, here's the programs we put in place in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, obviously kept it rolling. And below all those programs in the quarter, we would put all of our metrics. What are our gross and net retention? What was our sales win rate? We would put all of the metrics that were outputs to say, are those programs over time moving those metrics? And they did. Right? And so we'd say, we invested in this, and here's how we're showing you what it did. Because if you're investing and you don't have those outcomes, then we're not investing, right? We've got to stop and take a look and say, okay, where do we move the resources? But it helps you stay focused on what are the things that are moving the needle, and are those programs, which all align back to what were the top goals of the go-to-market team, were they creating outputs? And we show that to the board every quarter, and that's what my leaders talk to in the board meetings. It's like, let's go through this slide. Here you go. Here's what we did. Here's where we're at. Questions, right? And it was probably one of the most effective communication tools that I used to, keep us all, and it honestly helped us keep ourselves aligned, right? Just at a higher level, taking it up a notch.
Totally. By the way, I got to tell you, so I know I mentioned a guy you don't even know, my Robert Kaler's this guy I work with. He's going to eat this podcast up, because you said 3 things. He always says rule of 3. Number 2 is he keeps saying, Craig, these people, we don't need to build a 70-page deck. We need one piece of paper. And well, not piece of paper, but you know what I mean? Like one page. And it's like, oh my gosh, I just love the simplicity of that.
It's hard to do, but it was really an exercise that helped us translate also when you're talking to investors, board members, et cetera. How do you translate back what's going on and what's working and what's not? And, how do we think about that? So I think it was just a super effective way to get that simplicity in play.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to take all these things to ask you. By the way, this is classic. Everyone's going to think this is corny. This is so us. I honestly did not necessarily plan on talking about this, and I'm so happy with the first part of this podcast, because very practical, really important, really timely. So that was a beautiful thing. And I want to take I'm going to say like a couple words that you brought up, and then I'm going to ask you a question. So one is, once again, I'm going to bring up what the market wants, why you exist, maniacal focus, and I'm going to stop there. So what's happening in the sales tech market right now? As an alumni, and now you can take a step back like me. I'm in the same. I get to take a step back and take an objective look. So now that you're doing, I threw in those words because I kept going, oh, this is going to be interesting, because we still have hundreds of vendors out there. And I know I said hundreds, and some people will say thousands, but let's just, for the sake of in my purview, hundreds. So what's happening right now? Where like answer it any way you want.
It's fascinating. Yeah, no. Well, and I was a partner at KPMG in consulting, and so I use my consulting hat as I take a step back and go, what's going on here? And actually just did a presentation for Madrona on this. A team of us did, including Lauren, who was the ex-CRO from DocuSign. So it was fun to say, what do the next 5 years look like? No, super fun. But here's what I will say, and obviously I was inside. I see what's happening at the other companies that were in the ecosystem. Sales tech, and it's like any tech, and I've said this for a long time, anytime you bring technology to a new segment, sector, role, you get this proliferation of all these little niche tools that solve a piece of the pain. And because and if you think about the go-to-market organizations, and obviously sales in particular, there's been nothing. Like forever, decades, there was nothing. You had a CRM system and that was it. And then all of a sudden you started to get these pieces of tools. It was like, okay, help SDRs coordinate calls, then help you hear calls. Nobody just wants to, schedule a call, and nobody just wants to hear a call. They want to understand how do they make their forecast, right? That's the goal. There's the only goal. Is everybody is being asked, are you going to make your forecast, and where's it going to land, and are we going to do it the same way for the next, bajillion quarters? And so the question that needs to be answered is like, am I on track with my forecast? Do I have pipeline for the next forecast that I need? Or is that pipeline in the right stage to convert when it needs to convert? And, are we, in the right conversations with our customers across retention and obviously growth levers? And so everybody was starting to focus as these niche pieces of technology started turning into the platforms. And I'll just use that broadly across some of the major players. You saw them try to pull all these pieces of niche pieces of technology together to answer that ultimate question. Am I going to meet my forecast? Because that's all that our customers are asking us at Outreach, right? It's anything I heard, whether I talk to a CFO, a CIO, or a CRO, is how do I consolidate
across
too much tech. Tell me how I can consolidate this tech. That cry hasn't gotten less loud since I was, in the role I was over a year ago. So, especially in this market. So that was the cry. And then, unfortunately for everybody, honestly, the market downtrend hit as these companies were starting to really invest in how do we pull all that together. And then what happened was then they needed to lay off people. And then they are scrambling, like we were just talking about a little bit ago, on what's the strategy that you get through this market, and how do you reaccelerate growth, and how do you do all these things. And the challenge that I think everybody has right now, and I say that across every niche player and every big player in this market, is that you need another level of investment to get it to that ultimate nirvana of the pieces are there. The DNA is absolutely there. And some of them are better than others. But there is no one who has stitched it all together. And there was a level of investment that was going to be required. And the problem is, all those people pull back on investments because of the market, right? And trying to get to profitability. So all of them were told the same thing, all the biggest players, right? Were just told you've got to get to profitability faster, which meant they had to pull back on investment. This is very complex technology. I mean, you're talking about listening to calls and hearing sentiment in emails and in meetings, and trying to translate that all back to where are we in the cycle with the customer journey, and how is that impacting forecast. All the pieces are there, but not all, most of the pieces are there to really start to put some foundationally amazing things together, except it was at the point where another big level of investment was needed. So what I think is going to have to happen is consolidation, purchased by big players to make that next level of investment, right? You've got to have, none of them are there yet. There's some good technology in a lot of these companies, but none of them are there yet. And the last thing, and I said this at Madrona, last thing anybody should be investing in is any other niche technology here, right? Like nobody needs another niche piece of software that, does something great with a phone call or does something great with an email. It is what every company needs is this consolidation of all of this tech into something that truly helps them get visibility and understand what's happening in their customers and the journey that they're on. So that's what has to happen. And so that's going to happen with consolidation, acquisition, and I think that'll start happening in, my guess is mid to late 24, as all these companies are getting tighter on money. The challenge was so many people have raised so much money before the market hit. They've been using that to try all these different strategies and race around, and they're burning through it and not making progress, or some are starting to pull some things together. But it's still a lot of investment, I think, to really get the technology to where it needs to be, because this is complex. I mean, you're integrating with multiple systems. You're using, and obviously now with AI, how can we more efficiently incorporate that in? So I think that is the next stage. Is everybody sort of stalled in the last 18 months, and to re-energize this and take it to where it needs to be is another level of investment.
Isn't that funny? With like 3 minutes left, I was holding back on saying AI, and then you got it in there at the buzzer. By the way, that is so. In my reflections on the sales tech market, I'll just give you a couple of my takes.
I'd love to.
To me, right now, consolidation is actually elimination, and I don't blame the CRO, the CIO. I mean, so. There's a difference, right? Like the niche player roll up. The issue, I think, as the market sorts itself out, is there was a lot of niche players that really were only $30 million companies. And I know you wouldn't be interested in buying something that gets you 30, right? You'd want something that moves big swings. So we did have a lot of sort of niche players that are really mom and pop type software companies, and that's fine, by the way, but like many of them didn't add enough value, and so that part is the elimination part. I think as the sort of soon to be titans of the industry, as you describe, as you're talking about them and having them have to broaden their platform, I think one of the things that is difficult now is like, had things stayed the same, then you would roll up places where there's big lifts, right? So forecasting was a big lift, right? It's a big lift. Everyone wants to play in that game. But then AI this year, it's not one of those people always want to bait me into bashing it. And actually that's so ridiculous. This year was the year, in particularly it was the 1 year where a massive big disruption just dropped into the market. That will complicate development plans for the big folks, because they're not going to want to buy legacy niche, because they're going to know better. They're all smart, as you know. And I mean, is in that they're going to be like, well, if we have to incorporate AI, Gen AI, whatever it is, whatever direction you want to take here, faster and better, because that's where the threats will come from, the bottom and the sides, is if you're not there. So as you're talking about 2024 and the reinvestment, it's really interesting. That might actually hamper some of the consolidation of the sales tech market. Will likely be a lot of folks sort of falling off, either staying small and staying alive for a while, or if they're venture, they might have to fall off the map a bit, because if you're, outreach where you work, they're not going to take in anything that's not going to get them to the AI nirvana that they're, that these guys want to go to. Well, that's interesting, right? On your 2024 with the AI bomb.
And it's true, and it's another complication. I think you're right on top of the market disrupting, the technology started disrupting too, right? And all of that happening at the same time was pretty insane.
It's amazing.
And so it creates this incredibly unique dynamic in the ecosystem today that it probably has never existed before all at the same time like this, with a major disruption from a technology, potential. And it's funny, I used to say this all the time. People are like, oh, why isn't Salesforce or Microsoft build what you guys have built? And I said, think about the platform they were built on. It's decades old. They can't reinvest at their stage and build this. Well, that same now true for the veterans in the industry that we're talking about, where if they can't reinvest, they're old technology too. And that's the other challenge here, right? What I said became true of myself, right? And so you have to also look at it from that angle, and that's a card that's still playing through, right?
Yeah.
That is going to be fascinating to see how they're able to react to retool, because there's technology that they spent a lot of money building that is way easier now with AI. So do you retool and make that piece more efficient and go spend the money somewhere? How do you utilize the funds that you have, and can you rebuild the platform in a way that takes truly advantage of this? I'm not just saying you have AI, truly takes advantage of it in a way that starts, changing the game on the way your tech works. So
disrupting the disruptors, the disruption of the disruptors.
It is. No, it's insane. And really just a point in time in history that I think is going to change the trajectory of this space.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, think about all the things that came together. It's like a sonic boom. Like, it's like
literally
the AI just, I mean, like I was with, I keep bringing him up, but there's an analyst named Esteban Kolsky. I don't know if you ever look at his stuff and read him, but he's like amazing. He's just, he's a combination of pissed off for greatness and brilliance. And so like he said, and he has this thing, he hates predictions, right? He calls them, I think the charlatans of platitudes. And I confronted him on it. He's like, Craig, let me ask you this. Go back and look and see how many of them talked about generative AI being the effect that was going to have this year. I'm like, oh my God, that's so true. And also then I added it because it's like the sales tech market had the buyer disruption. So from zero interest rates to massive ones and a complete clamp down, to the sales teams losing people left and right. Those things go together. But that, I was like, oh my gosh, these amazing sort of retention rates that many of our success stories in sales tech are going to take a hit just by virtue of the fact that sales team went from 1,000 to 800, or even 500 or worse. And then, so you had the buying market changed, the AI bomb dropped, and they were already in a period of like all those effects on them. They were already trying to sort out how the heck are we going to, build to dominate. And it's like an incredible just confluence of things at one time in that market. It's going to be fun to watch now that we can sit on the sidelines and watch for a while.
Yeah, no, I don't want to sit in it, but I will sit over here because it was painful getting to where we got, from 25 to 250 million in a good market. This is insane. And to your point, and I say this all the time, and I don't disagree with Esteban, I like him already, is everything everyone has said about the market over the last 2 years keeps being wrong, right? And it's because of this sonic bomb that you've just talked about. No one has ever lived through, I mean, we were just finishing a pandemic, and then you had this market change and the AI drop and the investment in, especially in this go-to-market space, on where the technology needed to go. And so I don't know how this is going to play through. I just know it's going to change from where it is today, and probably drastically by year end. And we'll see who's on, who's in the game as we get over the next 12 months. Is going to be sitting on the sidelines. I'm going to be the Monday morning quarterback, but
I know we get to talk about it with there's literally no harm, no foul on us now. We can just say what we want, and if it's wrong, it's no big deal. For for them, it's like a multi-million-dollar error if they're wrong. Yeah.
Painful. And so you see why the CEOs are freaking out, right? I mean, that when you talk about that set of facts, it totally makes sense why they're grasping at a lot of straws and not able to do the maniacal focus, because this is a crazy cycle and they're in the middle of it, right? So
yeah, and things are changing so fast. Okay, but actually, let's do this on our last one. Along those topics, actually, I think the question I would ask you is related to sales tech. So how should the market handle their sales tech investment right now? What would you recommend to them? Like, keep going, double down, take an audit, make sure you're getting value. I don't know. You know, like I hear it a lot of different things.
Always take an audit and make sure you're getting value. And if somebody hasn't done that at this point, they're, I don't know what your CFO is saying to you. Yeah. I was like, CFO was asking that question a year and a half ago. So, I think it's obviously doubling down on the ROI. I do still see, though, it's part of this grasping at straws thing. I'm just going to buy some tech to help solve this problem, and then spending no time implementing, training, and holding accountability for using it. So same old, right? I mean, that's always the challenge. It's like you buy something, you have to change your processes to utilize that technology as part of the process to make sure you're getting the bang for the buck. And so many still do that, right? So many. I mean, even like literally right now, it's like, stop buying things if you don't know how you're going to use it or don't have the team to train and hold accountability for making sure everybody understands how to get the benefit. Just don't buy it. That's not a good move. So I think that it is stop investing in a bunch of niche technologies. Don't. Your teams can't handle it anymore. They were already overloaded. If you're still looking at niche stuff, don't. Double down on the stuff that gets you the most. It's always like, is it good across most things so you can and use your time and energy there until this market changes, until this plays out a bit, because I think that that's the safest bet to say, something that's giving you one of those platform technologies that's giving you a broader, perspective across your go-to-market organization, and stop doing 25 other things. Just give your team a solid foundation there and use it to run your business. And that's the best you can do, I think, as we watch this next 12 months play out.
There we go. All right. That's it for us. But I have one more question before you get off. If you could eat one thing the rest of your life, but you could only eat that one thing, what would it be?
Holy cow. One thing. Damn. Sushi.
I like your style. It's funny. We did that randomly on the first episode, and then a bunch of people sent me in Stand By Me. I didn't even remember this because that movie was like from my childhood. Yeah, they asked that question, and the kid says, "Cherry Pez." Like, what are you talking about? Like, what were we even talking about?
Yeah.
I still haven't heard that one. Yeah, I was gonna say, wow, times have changed. Is it vegan? Is the Cherry Pez vegan? Yeah, sushi would be a good one. You could live with that the rest of your life.
I think
mine
so.
was the carne asada burrito.
Yum. Yeah, I was trying to balance a little healthy in there.
Yeah, I know. I figured you would. And it's but there's variety in there too. It's delicious.
No, I can eat some bad for you sushi.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was amazing. I'm actually going to ask you again to come on as we see things develop.
Anytime.
And yeah, you're the best. This was exactly what I thought. And you did bring, even with the knee injury, intellectual energy.
Can I give you my one last? Your inspired Gardner quote just hit me. So it's like, all of these companies that thought they were like the new age, the most new age company here. We're taking this segment to a whole nother level, whole new future. And I was at this car show, and somebody had a sticker on their car that says, "My car's a hybrid. It burns oil and gas." And I think that's a nice analogy for some of what's happening in the market with companies who are like, "Yeah, I'm cool, but I'm doing all the bad things that still burn all my cash."
Oh my God. Did you plan for that? Because that was the perfect
No, it just hit me. I loved the sticker. It was hilarious. And your little quote earlier reminded me of it. So there we go. We'll end there. Don't be that kind of hybrid.
I love it.
Thanks for tuning in to GTM Unfiltered. To hear our innovative insights and strategies, visit gtmunfiltered.com. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time.